Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I know the governor has a plane to catch, so we're going to start right away. To Governor Brown, to President Pro Tem De Leon, and Speaker Atkins, as well as all of our representatives, thank you for your tireless work that brought this day about. And we couldn't be in a more beautiful place, the #1 most visited public observatory in the world, here in Griffith Park, with the Griffith Observatory, to mark this important legislation for our city, our state, and for our world. With SB 350, California is building on an incredible legacy of being environmental leaders, not waiting for action, but taking action. And with the governor's signature today, we both reaffirm the ideals that we will lead the world and we will step forward. We are called by our generation to take action for our children and our children's children, to clean our air, improve the quality of our life, and enhance our energy efficiency. This is not an overstatement to say that this is the most important piece of legislation that California has ever known for the environment. And here in Los Angeles, we stand ready to be a part of that with this coalition of beautiful people that are assembled here today. Este es una pieza de legislación sumamente importante para nuestro medio ambiente, porque es el primer paso en asegurar que nuestros niños respiran aire limpio y vivan en ambiente sano. It gives me great pleasure to introduce, they say short speeches win elections, so I'm going to leave it there, to introduce my dear friend and the Speaker of the Assembly, a great environmental leader and a great Californian, Tony Atkins.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mayor Garcetti. It is so great to be in your wonderful city of Los Angeles. I truly enjoyed Little Tokyo last night, just so you know. You know, in 1955, 60 years ago, the Griffith Observatory was the setting for Rebel Without a Cause. And I am incredibly delighted to be here today alongside a rebel with a cause. That's you, Senator De Leon, President Pro Tem. A rebel with a cause. You made a promise that California would continue pushing the envelope on climate change. With SB 350, you've more than honored that commitment. Thank you for that. Governor Brown, by signing this bill through your ongoing partnership with the legislature and with the policies you're advancing in the executive branch, you're helping ensure California remains a global leader on climate change. Griffith Observatory is one of the most recognizable landmarks in California. It's right that we would be here today. SB 350 should be recognized for the amazing landmark it is. SB 350, you all know, sets a 50% renewable portfolio standard by 2030. It doubles California's energy efficiency target for existing buildings and expands the scope of the state's energy efficiency efforts throughout our economy. It expands opportunities for more electric vehicles and transit. It ensures that disadvantaged communities are a major focus of California's climate change programs. I represent an incredible district in San Diego that will feel the consequences of climate change. Rising sea levels will impact homes, businesses, infrastructure, our national security even, and our very economy. And that's why SB 350 is so important to our future. With SB 350, California is leading by example. It sets the course for our state, for the nation, and for the world. There will come a time when climate change deniers pull their heads out of the sand, and when that day comes, they can look around and see that California will be in better shape because we put SB 350 in place today. And now it's my incredible pleasure to introduce to you Martha Dino Aguayo, who is the Executive Director of Physicians for Social Responsibility. Martha.
Wonderful to be here this morning. Muchas gracias y buenos días. Thank you, Speaker Atkins, Senator De Leon, and Governor Brown. And first, I want to acknowledge the many community leaders, environmental justice advocates, and health professionals that got us here today, who are part of a growing movement of Californians who want and expect bold and courageous action on climate change. Se ve, se siente. We see it, we feel it. All over California's communities of color are standing up for what we want. We want a new green economy. We want to see a just transition, and we expect bold and courageous leadership on economic justice and environmental justice. We want an economy that values and works for poor people and does not place a heavy price tag on breathing. In 2012, parents all over California made anxious trips to the emergency rooms while their children struggled to breathe in the back seat. 72,000 ER visits in 2012. That is just the tip of the iceberg of the oil industry profits and the true costs of those profits. Many of us here have worked very hard for a very long time, and with high hopes, high expectations, and equally high commitment, we commit to making SB350 real and meet its promise to deliver energy efficiency and renewable energy, and we're still waiting for the petroleum fee reductions and petroleum reductions, and we will stay in this fight because we need to make sure that these investments come into low-income communities. And while we celebrate this bill signing, we know that there is much more work ahead. A través de esta campaña hemos aprendido que las comunidades latinas y de color de este estado esperan liderazgo, que de cara y corazón fuerte ante la crisis que es cambio climático y el poder de las compañías petroleras. Gracias. Again, thank you for all who've made this day possible. We will remember and give due to your leadership. With that, I am honored to introduce Speaker Pro Tem Senator Kevin De Leon.
Thank you so very much. Good morning to each and every one of you. I want to thank our great mayor of the great city of Los Angeles for his incredible stewardship on a whole variety of issues, but especially when it comes to the environment. Mayor Eric Garcetti, thank you very much for hosting us here at the beautiful Griffith Observatory. To Madam Speaker Toni Atkins, thank you so very much. You've been a wonderful partner with me in the state legislature. I enjoyed very much locking arms together, battling for what we know is right for communities throughout the state of California. To our great governor, Jerry Brown, quite frankly, there's no better governor in the state. There's no better governor in the country, I should say. There wasn't a faux pas. There's no better governor in the whole nation than Governor Jerry Brown. That is the bottom line. To my fellow colleagues in the state legislature, to my very good friend, and to my joint author, he came all the way down from San Francisco. That is Senator Mark Leno, who's my joint author. To my family of incredible senators, wonderful elected officials, different hues who worked collectively to make this possible. That is, and this woman needs no introduction. She's known not just regionally, statewide, nationwide, but globally. That's Senator Fran Pavley. Senator Fran Pavley. And to my colleagues who are here today, we have Senator Benjamin Hueso, who came up from San Diego. Senator Ben Allen from Santa Monica, the West Side. Senator Isidore Hall, straight out of Compton, came out of CPT. You got someone in Compton who wants to reduce carbon, and that is Isidore Hall right there. To the great assembly members who I worked very closely with in the California State Assembly, Assembly Member Das Williams, Reggie Jones Sawyer, Mark Stone, Kevin McCarthy, Cristina Garcia, Tony Thurman, Ed Chow, Majority Leader Chris Holden. Want to make sure. Jimmy Gomez, oh my God, my Jimmy Gomez. My colleague, who is my assembly member, Jimmy Gomez, who also followed me as chair of Appropriations Committee in the State Assembly. Thank you so very much also, too, for being here, Jimmy. Good morning and welcome to each and every one of you. Today, we open a dynamic frontier in our state's historic fight to protect our precious environment and construct the clean energy future that Californians, our children, and our grandchildren deserve. There was a time not so long ago, and I know many folks here remember, when you could look at this park and stare out and see the vast city and see a blanket of dark brown gray smog. In fact, the smog was as much as a landmark in Los Angeles as was the Hollywood sign, as well as City Hall. It made your eyes burn, it made your throat sting, and most of all, because of the sadness, especially for our children, it made our hearts ache. Because we accepted that air pollution was the cost of doing business, that environmental health and economic growth were mutually exclusive. Today, we prove otherwise. Thanks to our investments and our commitment to clean air, we can see that Los Angeles skyline much clearer, and we can see the stars in our sky. I'm proud to call Los Angeles my home, and I'm proud to call its people my sisters and brothers. And I'm proud that thanks to the golden standards that we set forth in Senate Bill 350, and that all of you here today who helped pass this measure into law, we can see a much brighter future, a healthier future for Los Angeles and the entire state of California. Up and down this great state of ours, the people made their voices heard, overwhelmingly supporting the goals of Senate Bill 350 that we put forth. A remarkable coalition of forward-thinking businesses, faith leaders, public health organizations, Nobel Prize winners in science and technology came together to echo the sentiments of the people and the urgency of action. And then we amplified the voices of working families living beside our freeways, refineries, and factories, and whose voice is rarely heard in the halls of the state capitol, whose quiet struggles are, quite frankly, the reason why I ran for office. Perhaps more than anyone else today is a victory for them, because the new standards established in Senate Bill 350 aren't just numbers on a timeline. They are real jobs for real people and healthier lives for our children. With policies like Senate Bill 350, California is refining and redefining the environmental movement. We're doing away with the tired old stereotypes of environmentalism as a pastime of the wealthy and the elite, and of clean energy as a niche market. We are democratizing the benefits of our clean energy and climate change policies, making clean air a universal right that increases access to health, affordability, and renewable energy. Ultimately, what we're doing is we're mainstreaming clean power. Soon, whether you live in Boyle Heights or Beverly Hills, Modesto or Marin, Sausalito or Santa Ana, Sacramento or Logan Heights, San Diego, you will have the same access to clean electricity and clean air. In fact, we have families here today who benefited from our efforts to expand clean energy in our low-income communities. Some, in fact, even brought their own electrical vehicles right outside this parking lot. Soon, those communities living in the shadows of smokestacks and freeway overpasses will breathe a little easier. Senate Bill 350 puts us on track to generate half of our electricity from renewable sources and double the energy efficiency of all of our buildings by 2030. No city in this state, no state in this nation, for that matter, the entire world, has adopted targets more ambitious in scale. And with the governor's signature on this bill, we're also opening the next chapter in our transition to a clean transportation future coupled with economic growth. Senate Bill 350 makes it a core mission of our electrical vehicles, I should say utilities, to expand electric vehicle charging infrastructure, making driving an electric vehicle more convenient and more accessible for Californians at every income level in every corner of our state. I want to give a special shout out to our investor-owned utilities as well, our own Southern California, Edison as well, for the negotiations. Tough, complex, but respectful. And I thank you for reaching out, for doing the right thing. This bill creates something that's been missing in our transportation market for nearly a century: legitimate competition for oil as a predominant source of fuel. This is a quiet revolution for consumers, public health, and the California economy. California has planted a flag no less remarkable than the one the United States planted on the moon nearly half a century. We are demonstrating that it is possible for one of the great economies of the world to reduce greenhouse gases and create a new clean energy market that sustains economic growth. And we're not done yet. We'll press forward will keep making history until every single Californian, every single child, irrespective of who they are and the hue of their skin, can breathe clean air and drink clean water, empower their homes, businesses, their cars, as with clean energy. Thank you. Thank you for all that you have done, to all the activists, to all our members of labor, to all the scientists, to all the Nobel Prize winners, to the elected officials, and to all of them statewide who couldn't make it here today, to my friends in the legislature, Speaker Tony Atkins, to our great governor, Governor Jerry Brown. You set forth the vision for us. We followed your vision. I want to thank you, Governor Brown, for proving that the power of your pen is mightier than the ignorance of the past. With that, thank you very much. With that, I'm very proud and honored and humbled to introduce a man who actually needs no introduction. He has been talking about this for decades. Back then, he was an outlier. Now, his voice is mainstream because he's helped bring this to the forefront many decades ago. He's been all over the world, and just recently in the Vatican, talking about how do we move forward globally, how do we democratize our climate change policies. The man with the vision who needs no introduction. Let's give it up for our governor of the great state of California, Governor Jerry Brown.
Thank you. Thank you. This is really a very significant occasion with such a diverse and powerful gathering of people to celebrate a bill that deals with climate change. I mean, this business of climate change is a hard topic to talk about. And when I came here to this observatory, I was giving a Pluto badge. And I began to think about Pluto how far away it is, and we can't be sure whether it's a planet or not. And that reminded me of the climate skeptics that don't quite get it. They're in political Pluto, and we're going to have to bring them back to Earth, where the rest of us live. Now, I know when we look out, we see a little haze out there. But I'll tell you, I was in LA in the 40s and 50s just visiting. It was a lot worse. And even today, if you measure Shanghai and Los Angeles, the difference is about 30 times in terms of how many pollutants are out there. And this is not just some environmental nice thing that we're talking about. This is basic health or not. And people, I don't want to make you feel bad, Angelinos, but if you live within 100 feet of a freeway, young children, their lungs, in many cases, can be permanently affected. So we're talking about the big world of avoiding climate catastrophe, but we're talking about the immediate world of people living in Riverside and Los Angeles and other places. And we're going to make the world healthier and the city healthier and their lives better. So this is big. It's big because it's global in scope, but it's also big because it's local in application. And that's why so many of you are here. So that's really the point I want to make very carefully. There are short-lived greenhouse gases like ozone and like nitrous oxide. That is particulate matter, soot, or so-called black carbon. That's bad stuff. And that's also heat trapping. So we get rid of that stuff and we protect our health as well. So California is taking the lead. There's no question about it. I want to just make a reference here, which probably very few people will know about. There was a politician in Los Angeles who lived in Pasadena and who came up with a slogan, SOS, stamp out smog. I'm waiting to see if anybody knows who that is. That was Supervisor Warren Dorn. And he was a Republican and a bit of a conservative at that. And he was one of the original people stamping out smog. Well, Warren, we're still stamping out smog and doing it in a very big way. And at the same time, smog was invented in Los Angeles. It was. It was invented. The name was invented. There was a fellow at Caltech, and he came up with the idea, and they called it smog. And so because of how bad it was, California became sensitive to air pollution and created the Air Resources Board. Ronald Reagan was governor. Richard Nixon was president. He signed the Clean Air Act. That was a time when Republicans really got it. We hope they're going to come back to the good old days of Reagan and Nixon, where people cared about clean air and clean water. And because of this problem of smog, California was given a special prerogative under the Clean Air Act, whereby the state could enact tougher vehicle emission standards. And California did over all those decades, Republican, Democrats alike. And now Arnold signed this SB350. And we got Democrats, we got Republicans. Not many Republicans. Most of them have all gone off to Pluto or something in terms of political sensitivity on this issue. But we have this experience because we had the problem. Now, when you look across the Pacific, I don't know what they're doing over there in Shanghai. They say they got $4 trillion in foreign assets. You think they'd spend it, and they are spending it on a lot of solar collections. They can clean up the air. This town, if you can call LA a town, had far fewer cars 50 years ago. And today, with many times more cars, we have 90% less pollution. Over the next 10 years, we're going to reduce it even more because of our 50% standard, because of the efficiency of buildings, because of the efficiency of appliances, and all the other steps we can take. And that's why, by the way, you do need a powerful Air Resources Board, because they're the folks that tell us no when we want to emit. So it's helpful. I just have to say, I love the legislature, but I don't want to entrust you with too much power. At least on a daily basis. You set the big story, and then just let this executive branch carry out your desires, and you can check it every now and then, or check it regularly. I will, but I understand it's a little bit of a controversy. But California, and we could argue about the means, but the goal is clear, and California is in the forefront, and what we do here is really important to particularly low-income families. And as you go further east, it doesn't get better. You get to San Bernardino, Riverside, it's much worse than it is in Los Angeles. So there are a lot of people that we're helping, but we're also helping people all around the world, because California now is signing memorandums of understanding with provinces of China, with provinces in Germany, with states in Mexico, with Latin American countries, all over the world. The California example and the California strategy is being adopted, and people are joining with us. So today, we recognize the great work. And Kevin, this is a very, I don't know how you figure this out, but this is a big marker you're putting down on the ground, and this is global in its scope. So I really applaud you and I thank you for that. And I want to say, this is not easy stuff. I mean, we got to realize we are here because of oil and gas, to a lesser extent, coal. LA still uses a little bit of. But that is the prosperity. That's how we got here. That's how your everything we got has it. So what has been the source of our prosperity now become the source of our ultimate destruction if we don't get off it. And that is so difficult and such a profound challenge that I never want to minimize the task ahead. So that's why this is so significant. California, through this bill, is taking a major step. Other people are going to follow, but it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to come overnight. There's no quick one thing you can do. This is going to be a long march to transition the entire modern world to a decarbonized future. So it's big, it's important, and we're doing it in California. So that's why I think it's so important. My final point is why this gathering here, and you have so many people and television cameras and a handful of reporters, in general, climate change is not news. It's happening too gradually. It's happening too diffusely. So anytime we can get focus on this existential threat, we have to do it. Because It's everywhere, and it's just difficult to mobilize the political will. When something bad happens, we can respond. The trouble with climate change, it's a bad happening rather slowly. And if we don't get it in time, it'll be very difficult to turn back. The governor of the Bank of England warned the banks that by the time the oil companies get it, it'll be too late. 2/3 of their resources, maybe more, have to stay in the ground. This is the Bank of England. The governor of the Bank of England said those are stranded assets. When the tsunami, financial tsunami hits the oil industry, it'll hit the banking industry, it'll hit the financial system of the whole world. So what we do here is for our health, and it's for our continued financial and political viability. It's really important, and everyone here recognizes that. And so today, with great pleasure and excitement, I sign this bill into law. Thank you. Hey, Jamie, that belongs to
Yeah, exactly. Hot.
You come out in every photo. Yeah.
Okay.
Fasten his coat.
I think I'll do it slowly.
That's quite a scene.
All right.
Nicely done.
How do we get out of here? Somebody's got to move here.
Back up behind the speakers.
All right, that's it. Let's
Our
disperse.
governor is ready to go.
All right, let's go.